r/AmItheAsshole. Leading_Irie7997 says, AITA for telling my sister she has no one but herself to blame for her daughter not wanting to see her. My 30 meters sister, 32F, is a recovering heroin addict and has a 12-year-old daughter. She had already been an addict for a couple years when she got pregnant and cut off most of the family when we didn't give her money. She was also on probation at the time. She ended up failing a drug test while pregnant and had her daughter taken at birth. Literally at birth, she never even got to see her. I'll give her credit and say she cleaned up her act big time when that happened. She went to rehab, got a job, and is now 12 years sober and living on her own. My niece ended up getting placed with a nice foster family who adopted her, but my sister got supervised visitation when she was 4. Unsurprisingly, she had no attachment to my sister and saw her foster family as her real one. She still gets a few hours a weekend to see her, but by now my niece has gone from indifferent to annoyed at having to spend 90 minutes every Saturday chatting with a stranger. She'd now prefer not to see my sister again, and she agreed to that. She's been beside herself for weeks now, talking about how it feels like all her work was for nothing, and that it's like they took her away again. I reminded her that the girl has no attachment to her, and that's her fault for doing drugs while pregnant. She should have stayed clean, and this is the consequence of that mistake. She accused me of being unsympathetic and said I have no idea what it's like to give birth and never meet your baby after that, along with some other insults. Our mother found out from her and said that, while I was right, it didn't need to be said then and now. Coffee Captain 91 says, I'm gonna go with it, but gently. It is true that no, her daughter doesn't know her. Supervised visits have not been enough to form a bond. Your niece has a loving family. That's important. But your sister has been sober for 12 years. That's a hell of an accomplishment. Yeah, she was an addict. She can't change nor help that past. She can't demand her daughter love her, but is it really so hard to be kind about it? 12 is a tough age too. For all you both know, her daughter might change her mind more as she grows. She's clearly making great efforts, and a little venting in private isn't hurting anyone. At the end of the day, addiction is a disease. She can't change her past, all she can do is move forward. And she's clearly been doing this. TL, drive. Her daughter doesn't owe her love or a relationship, but acknowledging your sister's pain isn't wrong either. She has a right to be upset, even if this is the consequences of her past. People can change, and she's trying. A little acknowledgement of negative feelings, even if one is at fault, isn't a bad thing. WTF says, the sister is allowed to grieve, that's what she's doing. She's grieving the idea that she shouldn't be grieving because it's a result of her actions is weird. Guilt usually compounds grief, it doesn't lessen it. She lost her daughter for the second time in her life. And maybe it's permanent and maybe it's not, but that's still a huge and massive loss, and grieving that loss is entirely appropriate and healthy. This is even harder in this situation, because for all of her sobriety, her daughter has been her North Star. She got clean for her daughter. First to earn visitation, and then to maintain visitation. And now she's lost that, even though she's still sober, and that alone is rough. She doesn't have anything concrete to look forward to, and she's mourning a massive loss, and sure, I can see how it might get annoying to hear someone grieve for weeks on end. But Op is acting this way specifically because of her sister's addiction, and is punishing her for that, and it's wrong, unnecessary, and cruel. If Op still has feelings she hasn't processed about her sister's addiction, she should go to therapy, not yell at her sister for something she did a decade plus ago that she cannot undo, has already taken responsibility for, and is living with the consequences of on a daily basis. Jenny_Taylor_44 says, I wonder about it because she got visitation rights when the child was 4. That doesn't make her a parent at all. But seeing someone for every Saturday a few hours from the age of 4 to 12 and feeling she is a stranger she has to spend time with is weird. I have seen aunts much less, and I still like them and see them as aunts. That's why I wonder that the daughter didn't even see her as an aunt or something. Maybe the parents make it clear they don't like her, or she wants to meet her friends at Saturday, but wouldn't mind to meet the BO mom Wednesday or SDH. Now I think given the past, but the BO mom's accomplishments. Wayward Marauder says, your niece was for when her mother started becoming a regular fixture in her life. She was too young to fully understand why she'd been taken from her mother or to know to harbor resentment for it. If she's been seeing her biological mother every weekend/every other weekend for 8 years, she should no longer be a stranger unless there was no encouragement or fostering of a relationship there. I can't help but wonder what is being said to her at home and if she is being discouraged from getting to know her biological mother. Accept the child. Your sister sucks for putting herself in the position to begin with. She made her choices, but she also knows she made them and was wrong. She didn't need you rubbing salt in a wound. You suck for not keeping your opinion to yourself. A simple "I'm sorry you are going through this" would have sufficed in the moment. You didn't have to kick her while she was down. Finally, the courts suck for severing her parental rights and then still granting visitation and putting both her and her daughter through 8 years of torture. r/AmItheAsshole. Humble_newspaper_803 says. Update, AITA for disinviting my sick grandmother from my wedding. Hi, I wanted to give an update to my previous post. There were a lot of repeat questions, since some things I couldn't explain fully due to the character limit, so hopefully I can provide some clarification. I was concerned and initially made the decision to uninvite her because she was insistent on living life just as she did before her stroke and didn't even want a part-time caregiver until an incident at the grocery store that ended with her hospitalized. I didn't want her to be in a similar situation just for me. If she got hurt or worse as a result of her overexerting herself at my wedding, I would never forgive myself. I thought I was doing the right thing for her sake, but a lot of the comments gave me some much needed perspective. A handful of people were convinced I was embarrassed by my grandmother's health issues, worried she would ruin the wedding, or hoped my grandmother would pass away, as my grandmother is fond of saying, even Evil Neville couldn't make that leap. I will admit part of why I came to the decision was the result of frustration and lack of any sort of help from family, not just for the wedding, but it feels like they've given up on her altogether. I was at my wit's end with them, didn't know what else to do, got massively stressed and overwhelmed. It was taking more of a toll than I realized. I'll likely have a serious talk with certain family members later on. We did look into hiring/renting assistance of any kind, but we'd put almost all our money towards the venue, which was chosen by my dad and stepmom. They paid the down payment on our home and used that to steer the wedding in a direction they want, so they heavily influenced a lot of decisions. At the time it worked fine, since everything was booked and paid before my grandmother had a stroke. She's my mom's, who isn't in the picture, mother and was never close with my dad, so my parents aren't willing to provide financial help to get her some assistance. No one from her side wants to help either, so we are on our own. As for the main update, we've found a way for my grandmother to safely attend the wedding. I stated in some comments my grandmother was very active in her community, even leading right up to the stroke. One of her favorite things was reading to kids at a nearby elementary school, and I learned she'd become good friends with one of the custodians who would help her navigate the building and escort her around, a really nice guy in his 40s. I contacted him and explained the situation, and he said he would love to be her dedicated help for the day of the wedding. When he said that, the relief and excitement I felt was indescribable. Of course I went to my grandmother and begged forgiveness and explained the plan for the day. She was happy with the arrangement and said while she understood I had good intentions, if I try any nonsense like that again, Shed dropped dead out of spite. Thank you all for your help and judgment. New Wallaby 5497 says. That made me cry. Especially at the end, what your grandma said, because that sounded exactly like something my mother would say. She sounds like a special lady. Humble_newspaper_803 says. She really is, and I'm so glad someone mentioned this suggestion of reaching out to the community for help. Unicornhan 1991 says. I'm so glad you managed to come to a great resolution. I defo understand stubborn grandparents. My granddad is the same, and even after being run over, fallen off a roof, and fallen out a boat, still refuses any help of any kind. I love him, but my god, it's a nightmare lol. Dark_mode_nose_wind says. 3 cheers for the custodian. Glad things worked out. Deckpumps_n_deldas says. Good update, just a small FYI, you can get grandma qualified for Medicaid and that will pay for a carriage either in the home, or if / when she goes into a nursing home. Humble_newspaper_803 says. She does have a part-time carriage either, but mostly just to help her do errands, and get her to appointments and such. Unfortunately she wasn't available the day of the wedding. Deckpumps_n_deldas says. Oh good, just hoping Medicaid is paying for it, and not private pay. Nobody should private pay for care. No Locksmith 8590 says. Nice. Although I hope you and hubby shine up your spines toward your parents. A gift of a down payment does not mean they get to dictate your choices. Humble_newspaper_803 says. Yeah, we initially went along with it because we weren't too concerned with the details of the wedding, since it didn't really matter at the time. We just wanted to get married and have our families together. But I think allowing them to dictate aspects of the wedding like that gave them some sense of entitlement to decide more than we feel comfortable with, so sometime in the near future we will for sure be having a discussion and setting some boundaries. r/AmItheAsshole. Throwaway Music 2191 says. WIBTA for filing a noise complaint. Throwaway account here. I, 18F, am a college student living in off-campus student housing. I'd say it's 99% college students. One of the other residents has taken to bringing an industrial-style speaker down to the pool and blasting it for hours. This has gone on for the past few weeks regularly on the weekends. I have a pool view apartment and my window is shut and sealed. My friends on the same floor are also annoyed by this. WIBTA for calling the non-emergency police line and reporting this to the appropriate party for noise complaints. The management at my apartment complex never fixes anything and this has gone on for weeks. I know it's student housing with cheap construction and thin walls. But on the other hand, I know the pool is a public space and the other people have a right to be there. We're now in finals season and I can hear and feel every aspect of this music 20 feet from my window. It's giving me a headache, and I can't study. Suddenly Patches says. NTA. That's what the line is for. If it wasn't finals I would say first try to ask them to lower it a little, so it's not spilling beyond the pool area as a compromise, but finals are too damn important. Cat24 says. NTA, it'd be different if it was a little speaker, and it was at a normal sound level. But an industrial style speaker can get really loud. If other people are annoyed too, I don't think it would be a problem making a complaint. It's common courtesy to not blast your music as loud as you possibly can in a public area. Bamf 1701 says. NTA. Especially since you noted in a comment that your roommate tried to talk to the person and they continued to play the music. Smutternaut says. Info, have any of you ever actually tried to talk to the guy? Throwaway Music 2191 says. My neighbor went down last weekend. Apparently they were drunk and didn't seem to care. Levels didn't change. Totally Tirathea says. Our downstairs neighbors in college had parties every night. We were super annoyed because they'd moved in after us and we didn't want to break the lease. One night we got home from work at 2 AM, had to be up for work at 8 AM, and they were still blasting music. My boyfriend asked if they could please turn it down. They said yeah, then turned it up even louder. We called the non-emergency line. The police showed and broke up the party. Then the neighbors came upstairs and tried breaking down our apartment door until we had to call the police again. TBH, if we'd just called the number in the first place, they wouldn't have known it was us. Doomsday Spud says. Any chance this speaker could accidentally fall into the pool? Grumpy Bearbanks says. NTA, but be prepared to be told it isn't loud enough for them to do anything. Anxifax says. I'd try asking them calmly to lower their volume before doing anything else. If they don't stop, file the complaint. You're supposed to be able to have a quiet enjoyment in your living space, whether it's 2 AM or 2 PM. YWNTBA. r/AmItheAsshole. Crested_Hecko says. AITA My boyfriend borrowed my car and left my roommate and I stranded. He is extremely mad at me for not wanting him to borrow my car again for a while. I had an extremely busy weekend, more work than is healthy for a person, and my boyfriend wanted to borrow my car to go to the doctor. He is not an experienced driver and I get extremely worried about him borrowing it, so I let him under the condition he only goes to the doctor and straight home. This would allow time for us to go as a group to do errands between my work meetings. More or less he comes back an hour and a half later than he's supposed to be with a bunch of bags from all of his personal errands taken care of. He says they were right near the doctor and he tried to call me by. Since the call didn't go through, he just decided to do it anyway. My night got super ed up now with the meetings and work getting in the way of me buying dinner and picking up my pet's food, and my roommate, who was counting on me for a time sensitive matter, is really upset. I've been slightly on edge and stressed you having to figure out food and work and meetings all at the same time when it could have easily been prevented if he used my car how he promised. Hez yelling at me, very angry, from his room off and on because I told him I don't want him taking my car anymore. Wandering Glatx says. NTA, this is him telling you who he is. Listen. He is a person who will yell at you when he violates your trust and negatively affects your life. Xkneta says. Exactly, red flags are flying. Driftinger says. Don't let his tantrum make you second guess yourself. NTA. Toxic Radark says. NTA. He said he'd only use the car to go there and back, then tried to call you about how JK he was going to spend another 90+ minutes with your car doing what he wanted, but that call didn't go through, so you found out at the end of his shenanigans rather than the beginning. He's proven he can't be trusted to keep his word. No more car borrowing for him. In short, he ed around and found out. Brief Horror says. NTA, this is a type of thing I call a values problem. Values problems almost always lead to breakups because the unmitigated selfish behavior is not really conducive to a happy relationship. Mermaid Stone says. NTA, he needs to grow up and figure out his own issues instead of yelling at you for not letting him continue to take advantage of you and your generosity. Rasa 676 says. NTA. Do not let him gaslight you into thinking you're wrong. Ontario_side hustle 23 says. NTA. He took advantage of your kindness. He's more than welcome to use public transit, or even better, if he wants to drive around he can look into buying his own WIBTA car on his dime. Aisle 798 Lee says. NTA. He probably didn't even call because you wouldn't agree. Loki Ice McCopilot says. NTA, he made a promise, he broke the promise. There are repercussions to that. I'd ban him from using the car until he stops having tantrums. Toddlers shouldn't be driving. r/AmItheAsshole. Tahone 303 says, AITA for not replying to old friend's message saying I won't be attending her event. I 20F used to be incredibly close with Raja, 21F. We've met in high school and have been friends for 4 years, but this last year has been a rocky road in our friendship. It all started when she befriended a guy, Tyler 23 meters, who I initially got along with for the first 2 months. Ed drifted from Raja while she gradually became close with Tyler. I began to notice some questionably racist and sexist comments from Tyler, which Raja casually dismissed. I later broke off my friendship with Tyler when he brought up some sensitive information I only told Raja and few close friends. Not to mention, she would often ditch our plans to spend time with him and even called him while we were out together. Overall, she would expend majority of her energy on someone who she'd known for 4 months. I recall her calling me clingy and childish for wanting to hang out with just her. In a hoe, this precipitated into a heated argument with Raja about how I felt betrayed, since that was supposed to be between us. Since then, Raja ceased texting me back and planning activities together, so I assumed she'd settled with him while cutting me out entirely. 7 to 8 months have passed since then with no contact. A couple weeks ago, she'd sent me an invitation via text to her wedding, but I was still shaken up from our previous fight and silent treatment that I didn't respond. I honestly believe I would have been more likely to reply and go if she'd sent me a personal text following the invitation. After 3 days, it realized that I've been blocked off on all social medias and got a text from Tyler about how immature I was and to grow up. Dadbot Voice says, NTA. A. You guys ended the friendship. B. You don't invite to a wedding over text. Interabangs Moss says, that text was just a gift grab. Time to move on to a better class of friend. Completely NTA. Grouchy Phoenix says, was it just a text or a digital invitation? The post says invitation. Sending formal wedding invites aren't always a thing. Opening Chipmunk 1700 says, NTA in general, responding to communications is a reasonable expectation. Otto, there does not seem like there is much to salvage here. And she invited you to her wedding via text. Text. Girl, no. Super Gamma Nerd says, I would be tempted to send some gif of laughter as a response. Like the spit take woman in blue, or the mom on that 70s show, or something. Especially after Judah chimed in. But I'm petty. Melody Rain says, NTA she threw you an invitation after betraying your trust and choosing a racist asshole over you. Honestly, you don't owe either one of them the time of day. Block them off and call it good. Anxious_butt breathing says, hold on. Did your ex-friend marry Tyler or someone else? No matter what, this friendship should have been dead when she chose to keep the relationship with this new friend, even after he made racist and sexist remarks to you. It shows that she did not care about your feelings or the friendship all that much. You're not missing out on anything at all. Both her and Tyler deserve each other because they are both rude as hell. Do not answer her back at all. She doesn't deserve a damn thing from you. Representative Gear 250 says, I also want to know if she is marrying Tyler. Anxious_butt breathing says, I hope she answers. I must know. I'm very upset about the audacity of this friend not caring enough to reach out for 8 months and then randomly inviting her to her wedding. Like WTF. Then blocked her everywhere cause she didn't respond in 3 days. Again showing the only person she cares about is her damn self. I'm livid. r/AmItheAsshole. Anon Borderline says, AITA for not wanting to pay for my sister-in-law's wedding dress alterations. My sister-in-law is getting married in a few months and she's asked me to pay for the alterations to her dress. She's been struggling financially and says she can't afford it on her own. I initially said yes because I wanted to help her out, but then I found out that she's spending thousands of dollars on other parts of the wedding, like the venue and catering. I feel like she's prioritizing the wrong things and it's not fair for me to have to foot the bill for something that's not a necessity. I also feel like I'm being taken advantage of because I'm the only one in the family with a well-paying job. My husband thinks I should just pay for it to avoid any drama, but I don't want to feel like I'm being taken advantage of. AITA for not wanting to pay for her dress alterations. Purple Fee 5821 says, got all the wedding posts. Say very mildly AITA. You told her you would. Her reasoning is still the same technically, she cannot afford it. It's honestly none of your business why she can't. She said she can't, you said you'd pay, but because you don't like where her money went, it's no longer worth helping her? Muachu says, seriously, it's spring and it's starting, going to a wedding in a week. Close bracket. Feral_hoax says, AITA, just a little. If someone asks for your help and you agree, you don't get to audit their balance sheets to ensure they are spending to your standards. I think big weddings are stupid and expensive, and I don't find any of it economically worthwhile, but that doesn't mean I don't celebrate with my friends at this, or don't happily buy them gifts. My priorities aren't this and that's okay. Pay for the alterations, and call it a wedding gift. Rural_millennial_82 says, this. You can't tell her how to spend her money if you've agreed to give her money. If it was a loan, and you were waiting for reimbursement, then I could understand you being a little judgmental on how the borrower was spending money owed to you. But it's not. Though I'd still caution you on that. Maybe, a compromise might be that this is your wedding gift to her. Instead of buying off the registry, you've contributed to the wedding. One less thing on your plate, and if it's a gift, it may change your mindset. Amayra says, AITA. You said yes, so keep to your word. My first thought is, what if she has other people paying for the venues and catering? Like parents, or her partner's family? You don't know those details, so don't assume she's using you to afford fancy catering. She could, individually, still be financially stressed. Your husband is right, it's unnecessary drama. Reddit Stuff Can't Code says, why WBTA? Because you already said yes, though you can put a limit on how much you'll give. In the future, feel free to just say no in the first place, or say let me think about it, and get back to you in a week, and then go, do your research first. Backing up now will definitely sour things. r/AmItheAsshole. Kalunara says, WIBTA if I asked a girl's parents to tone down her expectations about my wedding? My fiance's cousin has a child, 6F. She is a lovely and usually well-behaved child, but being the first child from a new generation she is a bit spoiled by everyone in his family. I like playing and spending time with her, and she calls me auntie. When we announced our wedding a year ago she was, and still is, very excited. She immediately started looking for a dress, keeps asking questions about preparations every time we see each other, etc. It's all very sweet, and I appreciate that. There is one problem though. She loves to perform, and is very open to people. A few months ago her grandpa celebrated his 80th birthday in a restaurant with his family, me and Finnessy were there too. For about an hour she was leading dance games, mini disco type, or like a DJ on a wedding, people going in line to music, etc. I'm not sure how it's called in English. She forced anyone who stopped participating back on the dance floor with screams. Her parents and basically the whole family found this hilarious and kept coming to me and my fiance telling us to prepare ourselves because on our wedding she would be the one starting the party. We laughed it off, but this behavior reoccurred a few times, both from her and the family, and I'm getting a bit worried. I don't mind her doing a 5-minute performance on our wedding, I would actually like that, but I'm afraid she'll want to do something similar as on grandpa's birthday. Saying no to a 6-year-old having fun during a wedding could be shitty. WIBTA asked her parents to stop encouraging such behavior in context of the wedding and communicate to her clearly I don't wish for that to. Hot_Ostalot47 says. NTA. You have every right to not want that at your wedding. But it sounds like the parents might not take it too well, her being spoiled and all. This is something you're really going to have to stand your ground on. Also, I've never been married, but I've heard that people use their wedding coordinator to keep things flowing. Have the coordinator there, and they can be the one to stop the child's performance when it's supposed to be over and move on. Gramsknell says. NTA op just seen what her wedding day will look like. It's time to shut it down. Parents who think that it's okay for their kid to take center stage at an event is why child-free weddings are so popular. OK Organization 2767 says. You need to communicate this to them. Otherwise there will be a kid leading your reception party. Youth Nation 63 says. And this right here is why people have child-free weddings. Or elope. Your niece can be disappointed that she is not invited to your wedding. She will get over it. If you try to limit her to 5 minutes, well, good luck with that. And anybody that is upset by her lack of invitation, well, they can be uninvited too. And good luck. Remember who is paying for your wedding. If it is you, then you make the guest list. NTA. Dudley Munter says. Definitely this. If she starts, the chances of shutting it down will be minimal. She'll either scream/tantrum or op will be a meanie who won't let the kid have fun. Either way it will turn into a situation. CZ1988 says. Yes, exactly. How will they limit it to 5 minutes? OMG. NTA. The Filthy Dill says. NTA. I didn't want my little cousin for my flower girl because she pulled a similar stunt at another cousin's wedding. She acted out because people were paying more attention to the bride than to her. So we told the family that we'd already asked a family friend's daughter. That whole branch of the family boycotted my wedding, partly because of that. The other part was they were unwilling to attend a Catholic mass. It might corrupt their pure Southern Baptist purity. r/AmItheAsshole. Kungju 613 says. 8 of 4 calling the fire department when the code detectors were going off. I live in New York City in an apartment building. On Tuesday our code detectors suddenly went off and we called the fire department. They arrive and check the apartment and determine it was faulty space heater. Weird, but we trusted them. The super showed up and was talking to the lead firefighter, and after a short conversation the super walked away. The lead guy turns to us, says everything should be fine, just air out the apartment and we are good. Next day, it happens again. We call the fire department, they come and check the room, and decide it is actually the stove. They call Con Ed, the people who supply New York their gas etc. to send an inspector. The guy comes a few minutes later, agrees and tags the stove. Next morning I gave the tag to the super, explain it happened what happened again, and go back to my life. 24 hours go by after the stove is unplugged and all is well. Then this morning the stove is replaced, and 15 minutes afterwards the landlord knocks on my door and makes me feel bad for calling the fire department. You should have called the super. Calling the fire department was the stupidest, the most obnoxious thing you could have done. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about this. Am I the asshole? Wolf Goddess 77 says. NTA. Is your super aware that coke can kill people? You were absolutely right to call the fire department. Your lives could have been in danger. Honestly, I would think about finding an apartment whose super isn't so careless with their tenants' lives. Keelan 63 says. It's hard to say no to fixing problems, especially ASAP, if the city knows there's a problem and starts paperwork on said problem. Though really at least it saved that guy figuring out what the problem actually is by hiring someone. Ute Lawyer says. You should have called the super. Calling the fire department was the stupidest, the most obnoxious thing you could have done. Tell the landlord you're sorry. You were suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning and weren't thinking straight. NTA. Someone you don't know 70 says. NTA. The landlord is gaslighting you to deter you from calling authorities if any future issues should arise. He's just trying to avoid replacing faulty appliances. My advice to you is to find a different place to live when your currently sick spires. Someone who's raising a stink over having to fix a life-threatening problem can't be doing a good job of maintaining day-to-day quality of life features on his properties. Sassy Estraku never says. The landlord is gaslighting you quite literally, actually. NTA, Opus. Loki, Lawfeason says. Landlord is gaslighting you, it's not gaslighting, but the pun is funny. Oaks and Peens 1776 says. NTA when TG Cohen smoke alarms start going off, you get out and call the professionals to handle it, not the super who will rug sweep it or not fix the issue properly. Or CEMT says. NTA. Co is not only a silent, odorless, it is also an exceptionally unpleasant death. Critical Joke 597 says. NTA. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Super wrong for going off on you. He's probably scared the building could be shut down. Fire_Goddess 11 says. NTA you did the right thing. Your landlord is a moron. You would have died in your sleep otherwise. No_profession 8128 says. NTA. They are literally the first people you should call. Accident wait NG2 happen says. NTA the super is just pissed because he had to spend money replacing the stove. Ask the super if he has a gas monitor to determine where the co is coming from. My guess the answer is no. You were right in calling the fire department. r/AmItheAsshole. Throw baby bumps says. AITA for telling a friend of BFFs that just because her partner didn't spoil her during her pregnancy doesn't mean mine shouldn't/can't. Cast me 28F, my husband, J, 30 meters, best friend, A, 27F, friend of BFF, K, 29F, friend of friend's husband, M, 27 meters, I'm 5 months pregnant W/triplets. This is our first, last one done, pregnancy. Due to this being my first pregnancy it's multiples, it's really tough. My morning sickness is insane, BP always high, diabetes anemia are back, lower back is in hell, there's an elephant on my pelvis, a whole lot of other shit. J has been my rock, even though this is his fault, spoils treats me like a queen. He never says no, gives me stuff W/O asking. If it was up to him, I'd be in bed all day W/1000 servants. The other week, I invited other friends over for a tea tasting session B/C. My aunt sent some from home. I asked if she could bring her friend K. I said okay. I've met KM a few times before. They're nice people. K's real sweet, M gives aloof, but with K, she just brings out a warmth in him. They have a 7-month baby. The girls came over for tea. I'm doing everything B/C. I'm the host. I want to feel not useless. They offer help, but I decline, banned them from the kitchen. I've been running back forth since before they came. Eventually, it started to catch up with me. I'm running W slash a tray of treats. J comes home, sees me huffing puffing, drops everything to check on me. Help. He's frantic, too worried, ushers me to the special chair in our living room, adjusts it. Doesn't even address my guests, they are staring, giggling. It's slightly embarrassing. He runs, grabs all the things that make me comfortable, sets it near me. I try to stop him, but he has none of it. The girls are teasing me, telling me lucky I'm hoping he relaxes. He eventually continues what I was doing, is now the one bringing treats, refilling teas. I try to help again, but he keeps telling me to relax, that I shouldn't have to lift a finger. I, a little frustrated, stubborn, still try. Every time Jay tells me that I shouldn't lift a finger, I CK sweet expression turn a little more sour. Eventually, she's grimacing, snaps at us along the lines of, I don't get why he's spoiling you so much. This is too much. M never did this with me. Only spoiled lazy people act like this. Plus, you have guests. Have some decorum. The PDA is gross. I'm like, WTF. I was running around all damn morning, like I'm not 5 months pregnant, so I know damn well I'm not lazy. PDA? What frick? I'm PDA. I'm pissed at her, my body. Jay is getting up there. I snap right back at her, just B/C your husband didn't spoil your bitter ass. Doesn't my husband can't spoil my apparently lazy ass. Maybe you don't deserve it. And I've been busting my ass all morning, you call me frick, I'm lazy? Girl, frick you. She cries, runs. I'm fuming, but A is giving me that look that says I went too far. My other friends told me I was in the right, but A ran after K later texted me that M wasn't as invested in the K's pregnancy as he should have been, that I should have just let it. Some Rinality says NTA, but only because the comment from K was inappropriate. I don't get why you didn't let them help you in the first place, and the way your husband acted doesn't even address my guests' world made me feel unwelcome too. It feels like after he arrived it became a thing between you two and your guests, basically just being there. Like they get served, but it's not really a group thing. Also, these discussions, or at least everlasting comments, between your husband and you sound really annoying if it really goes on and on and on. Last_Bumblebee_7022 says, unwelcome. He literally started serving them. He just waited until his pregnant partner was all well and settled, since he probably guessed she'd be on her feet within minutes otherwise. Holdfast02 says, yeah, Rop shouldn't have let her pride keep her from allowing her guests to help. This was an issue of her own making. Can't fault her for snapping at K. She started judging Op and her husband and got slapped down for it. Going back 67 says, NTA. She brought her rude, jealous self to a situation to trigger her own issues. Then spewed it out onto a happy occasion in your home. Sorry, she had a bad experience with her, but she didn't need to bring that to your doorstep. She should know better than to want to add stress to the situation, when obviously you were in a stressed situation based upon the reaction of your husband. Plus, who messes with a hormonal pregnant woman like that and doesn't expect a throwdown? Environmental_art 591 says, Kay also conveniently ignored the fact that her uninvested partner and her only had one baby. Op is, frick, I'm pregnant with 3. I will agree with other comments that Op should have let the others help her in the kitchen, but I can also understand her stubbornness about wanting to feel useful. NTA. All good 177 says, NTA. And not to downplay it, but I mean, she gave birth to 1. You have 3. It's already hard on you, and it's only going to get worse. So OFC is going to be more extra with you than he probably would be if it was just 1. You deserve it. That Aisha's hard. She's just jealous, and saying so was out of line. If she was uncomfortable, she should have just made an excuse to leave. r/AmItheAsshole. Meroshad says, Update: refusing to cook. I spoke with each family member individually about their behavior. 10F apologized profusely and said that sometimes she doesn't like my cooking. 17F, who has only been with us since she was 16 and didn't grow up with us. It was a bit too long and off topic for the original post, said she appreciated that I make varied recipes, even if she didn't always like them. She also said that she wanted to cook, but had seen husband and 10F's reactions to mine, and was put off it. Husband accepted the tar judgment from the sub, and to his credit, he planned and executed every evening meal. The kids ate his meals, but husband's lack of finesse, overboiled vegetables, untrimmed meat, soggy pasta, etc., caused some picked over meals from the kids. Everything was edible, though, and he very politely asked for some tips on things, like how long to cook rice, but I did not physically help. I reassured him that I wasn't trying to watch him fail, but that I needed him to learn a lesson. After a couple of weeks, both kids were tired of husband's oft-repeated recipes, homemade pizza, Korean beef/veg bowls, and nuggets/fries, and he was stressed trying to get home from work in time to get meals done. The very first night, 10F cried over her dry gross pizza crust. Husband fought her over it, and both of them looked to me to solve the issue. I redirected 10F to husband, saying it's his call, since it's his dinner. With several meals, he made way too much mediocre food and had to eat leftovers for days, which was cathartic. Eventually, I sat down with husband and we evaluated the fallout. Husband said it hurt when the girls didn't like his food, and it was hard to plan things ahead on night he worked late. He also admitted he was in a rut for recipes, and that it was hard to modify for people's preferences. There is now a posted schedule and rule set that all family members are expected to adhere to. Each kid picked a night to cook. 10F has Sunday, 17F has Saturday. Husband and I split the weekdays according to work schedule. Since he works late on Monday and Friday, I took those. I work Tuesday and Thursday nights, so those belong to him. Wednesday is a flex day. Anyone can cook, or we might go out, and group projects are encouraged. The rules are, no gagging, faces, or complaining. Cook chooses the meal. Period. Assistance may be requested by anyone. Special ingredient requests must be made a minimum of 2 days in advance. So far so good. 17F has been learning a lot of technique. 10F is thrilled to be addressed as chef by whoever is assisting her, and no one has yet broken any of the rules. Husband more easily asks for my advice when he's cooking, how to season, how long to cook things, which is a huge improvement. It's too early to declare victory, and it takes a long time to make permanent changes, but it's encouraging progress. Thanks everyone for the advice and the support. Here's to continued positive. Decabuswood says, it's always good to read an asshole success story. What a great update. This occurred because you made changes, refusing to absorb disrespect from your family when it hurt your feelings. And then you persisted, even when I'm sure you just felt like doing it when faced with the prospect more soggy pasta. Your people learned much more than how to cook through your efforts. I did not see the original post, but I'm going to find it now. Congrats. Busishru says, it's the persistence that was a big part of it. Op didn't just have her husband cook for a week. Anybody can coast through for a short time. She held her ground for a few weeks. And that is what made the big difference. Good for Op for stomaching the situation for that long. Sitioff Orphan says, and honestly, good on the husband for owning up to the frick up and following through instead of purposely trying to make food so bad that the op has to help. I feel like most people would be too salty to handle it like he did. AOIF_2 says, this is great. But just to check, your husband did actually apologize to you at some point, right? Meroshad says, yes, he did. Akut God says, I didn't spot this one first time around, but reading it, I absolutely felt you. Sibling, partner and 2 kids 12 and 10 stayed with me over the Easter break. First time since the pandemic. While my sibling and their partner are adventurous eaters and absolutely find themselves, it was 3 days of whining, mashing food like they were 4 years old, grimacing and muttering from the kids, completely tolerated by the parents. I was so stressed out by it, because my sibling doesn't tolerate family members correcting the kids' behavior, and when sibling told me I'm shit with the kids, I went upstairs and cried. I spent a fortune trying to buy food they'd eat. I cooked 2 sets of every meal, so they'd have food they could eat, made multiple supermarket runs, and watching a 12-year-old sulk because their oblivious aunt had bought nice sourdough bread instead of a French baguette, and they didn't like it, was truly a stab to the heart, as ridiculous as it sounds. I'd made so much effort cooking and bringing in food to make nice meals. The 10-year-old flipped their shit because I served fresh peas and they only eat frozen. My sibling doesn't know it, but they and the family aren't welcome in my home until behaviors change. There will not be an invite, probably for several years. I absolutely feel for you, and I seriously don't know how it hasn't destroyed your marriage, because if my partner had done that and encouraged the kids the same way, I wouldn't have been able to be as gracious as you. Well done and good. You Say What Now says, lovely to read this update. Such a great job in turning this around so positively. r/AmItheAsshole. Rebelgeral says, AITA for flipping my stepmother off after she told me to share my money with my stepsister. I, 17F, usually stay at my father's during the weekdays for school, after spending weekends with my biological mother and stepdad. My parents divorced when I was 12 years old. My mom married my stepdad when I was 14 and my dad just married my stepmom early last year. My stepmom mom and her 16 years old daughter moved into my father's home about 3 weeks before their wedding. Anyways, my BO mom cash apped me some money. I was sitting in my room when I called her to thank her for the money, and apparently my stepsister heard my conversation. She asked me to share, and I told her no, since it wasn't even much anyway. She got upset and stormed off. Few minutes later my stepmom came into my room and demanded that I give my stepsister some of my money. I told her no, and that it was given to me by my true mother. I also said that how's about she give her daughter some money, since she's the mother and cares so much about her child not having money. She told me that I need to learn how to stop being selfish and share. I told her I don't have to share a darn thing. She threatened to tell my father, so I flipped her off, and she left my room upset. I don't get along with my stepmom as well as my stepsister. Since these two came into our lives, they done nothing but tried to give me the short end of the stick. One time my stepsister tried to make my dad spend some of my school's field trip money on a set of $40 headphones, since her other one broke. Luckily I convinced him not to do it. Of course she was mad. Then there was this time my stepmom got mad at my dad for taking me to my father/daughter dance instead of staying at home to spend time with her. She was pissed off about that. But you guys tell me if I'm tar or not about the recent situation. Lifestyle_Puff says, it's literally your money from your mom, lol. It's weird that stepmom even suggested you shared some of it. Heavy_Sang5228 says, it seems like she wanted an excuse to punish Op for not getting along with her and her daughter, which is completely unfair on her part. Unfortunately for her, she's in the wrong and Op refuses to tolerate her foolishness. Loki Ice McCopilot says, NTA, neither of them are entitled to anything from you, or your dad for that matter. Stepsies has BO parents to pay for her stuff. Next time the stepmonster threatens to tell you father, call her out and do it yourself and tell your BO mother. Then, let that adults fight it out. Does your father know what's been going on? AnnaBanana3468 says, NTA, next time this happens with your stepmom, offer to call your mom and put her on speakerphone. Tell her about the situation and let your mother tell your stepmom no. You shouldn't be caught in the middle. Charipop_02 says, LMAO, I love seeing people stand their ground against these no good step parents. NTA. Hosmimi says, NTA, you don't have to give her any of your money and they shouldn't be asking, much less demanding, that you do. Chelsea8794 says, NTA, that's money your mom gave to you. Your stepsister is not entitled to any of it. I hope you tell your mom about the stepmother's behavior. It is unacceptable. Fuf1TR says, NTA. But you might want to take a higher road from here on out when this BS happens in the future. If you firmly stand up for yourself without being disrespectful, the horrible behavior of the stepmother and her daughter will stand out and hopefully be more obvious to your father. Good luck. The Last Word 63 says, what is wrong with your dad that you had to convince him not to spend your field trip money on her? He has to know that they are trying to replace you. You may need to have a heart-to-heart talk with your dad before it gets worse. Fantasy Dragon Fruit says, NTA. Gods, your stepmom is a piece of work. She is obviously the source of your stepsister's BS. Your stepsister is not entitled to any of your belongings or money. That's plain stupid. If she's so hard up for cash, she can ask her father, presumably if he's alive, or if there's contact. I'd say try to talk to your dad. If your dad doesn't know the BS they pull on you, definitely have a heart-to-heart with him. And it's not teenage drama, it's his stepchild being a greedy selfish butt. Or consider living with your mom if possible. r/AmItheAsshole. Throwaway1340 says, AITA for telling my brother a secret and breaking his wife's trust. My sisters are absolutely terrible. Most of what I hear about them is from my brother, but I was pretty involved in their wedding and yeah, they fricking sucked. Anyways, Sil gave birth to twin boys 6 months ago. Her sisters haven't met them yet, but my Sil does send them pics. She usually only sends pictures of the boys, but apparently she sent a family one and the two started to make fun of her weight, of being the odd one out in terms of looks, and yeah. Apparently my Sil cried a lot, and my brother blocked them from her phone. Sadly, the damage was done. She became very self-conscious of her weight. She's now on a diet and exercises way more than I think is appropriate. She's already lost a lot of weight, but I don't think she plans on stopping. My brother's trying to support her and tells her that she shouldn't listen to her sisters. She just tells him that they're right and that she doesn't understand how he was okay with how she looked. She unblocked her sisters behind my brother's back and texts them often for advice, which is just them shaming her. I only know about this because her phone was blowing up, so I grabbed it to give it to her and noticed the names on the notifications and asked her. She admitted it and begged me not to tell my brother. She told me to keep it between us girls, claiming my brother won't understand. I just said sure. But my brother told me she's getting worse, and it was honestly really depressing. I told my brother. He was very thankful. I don't know what happened between them, but my Sil called me sometime later, and it was clear that she'd been crying. She said that I promised to keep it a secret, and she can't believe I broke her trust like that. She said that she was even more offended that I didn't trust her and told on her like she was some baby. When I tried explaining that I was concerned, she told me to shut up and said that there's nothing to be concerned about and that I should mind my own I'm business from now on instead of snooping through her phone and manipulating her trust. She seemed really distressed and I couldn't help but feel like I messed things up. Maybe I shouldn't have told my brother. I clearly don't understand what she's going through, and maybe she has a valid reason for not telling her husband. I don't know, she's never ever yelled like that before, and my heart still hurts. AITA? Acceptable_yellow_55 says. NTA, she might be dealing with PPD and her sisters do not help with the body shaming either. She needs real help, maybe therapy. You did the right thing. My Curtis Blair Canton says. Yeah, this sounds like some form of PPD. I'd back off and gently suggest to your brother that his wife might have PPD, then leave well enough alone. At that point it's between them. I just hope she gets the help she needs. Platinum Plustum says. NTA, your still needs some professional help, maybe she's suffering from PPD. Her sisters are a bad influence on her mental health, but she relies on them for external validation for a reason that a therapist could help her unpack. Hiding the fact that she's back in contact with her toxic sisters from her husband prevents him from successfully supporting her. Lally85 says. This. She had twins 6 months ago. The things her body went through to get those boys here safely was no easy task, and she, nor anyone else, should not expect her to be back in shape so soon. I'm not sure if she is breastfeeding or pumping, but that's another aspect of reasons she needs to support and love herself. Her sisters are either jealous or just evil. Your brother is worried about his wife. Men can also have PPD and it may be affecting him as well. So many things can happen mentally in this postpartum period. I hope she gets the help she needs. He can and should ask for help through either his primary care or her OB. Agreeable_doubt_4504 says. NTA, because it sounds like she's developing an eating disorder because of how horrible her sisters are being to her. She's not a child, but her husband does need to put his foot down and insist that she see the doctor with him involved in the appointment. Maybe you and he can sit down with her together and tell her that you both love her and this is becoming dangerous and emotionally damaging for her. I think you should offer to babysit while they go to the doctor's office and maybe while he supports her at her first dozen Overeaters Anonymous meetings. I would also look up those support meetings. They are for all kinds of disordered eating from anorexia to severe overeating. It might be really beneficial for her to hear others talking about their struggles, even if she doesn't want to actively participate. This might be a form of postpartum anxiety too. I think that her OB might be a good doctor to start with, especially if that's a doctor she has a good connection with already. If she hated her OB, then I would recommend seeing a general practitioner instead, and going from there. Her jerk sisters are creating anxiety in her, but that can be easier to do with hormonal changes following birth, and also how much pregnancy changes your body too. That's all for this video. Was it good? I know not, for I'm a robot. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. This video is the product of an automated process.